What's up, YouTube? Mini Minchino here, and welcome back to another Minnycast. For those who are new, this is the weekly podcast vlog type show where I share with you some updates and talk about something for, I don't know, probably 10 or 20 minutes. It kind of depends. And yeah, this week there's a couple things I want to talk to you guys about. So, I've been talking about making the move to Twitch. That is finally going to happen. So this week we're going to have my final 2 live streams on YouTube before making the move over to Twitch, and that's just to kind of help keep the channel from getting too cluttered and stuff, because I feel like it's getting pretty cluttered and stuff like that, which is kind of a pain to deal with if I'm being honest. So I think it would be really cool to kind of have like you know, stuff going on Twitch, and then upload some highlights to YouTube and stuff, in addition to, you know, the videos going on already. Part of me is debating on streaming some of my recording sessions on Twitch and splitting those up into regular videos as well. I'm not entirely sure I'm going to do that, but that is a thought that's been swimming around in my head. But yeah, basically this week on Wednesday, we're going to finish Ocarina of Time. On Friday, we're going to do something else as our final YouTube stream, and then I'm going to work on getting Twitch sorted out and set up, and then I'm going to be starting out, because we're going to be doing a lot more collab work with gamenbotch. So yeah, speaking of which, his link should be in the description, as well as some other friends, so go check them out. Good times. But yeah, I think other than that, like, content's going to be pretty much normal and stuff like that, so I do hope you guys are down with that and things of that nature. You know, we'll see what goes down. I do feel like streams have brought a lot of growth to my YouTube channel in general, but I do feel like I want to give Twitch a go, and if all else fails, I can always just bring them back to YouTube and stuff like that. So we'll see what happens. But for now, I do want to talk about something else. Also, you can probably hear, most people say they can't, but like, you know, I'm still getting over that cold. Like, I'm pretty much over it. It's just there's still some nasty stuff hanging around. It's not fun, but for the most part it's gone, so that is a thing. But yeah, what I actually want to talk to you guys about today is a video I've wanted to make for a long time. Now, I wanted to get some footage and stuff so I could, you know, show it in action, but it turns out that that's not going to be the kind of video that I'm making right now, which is a shame, but what I'm doing now fits the Minnycast more in general anyway. So what I want to talk to you guys about today, I can words, is the white cane. And for those that may not know, because I do know plenty of people have seen it, but they don't know that it's called the white cane or whatever. It's that, you know, long cane that blind people use to travel and stuff. And I'll put up a picture of mine, and you know, I probably get the idea already, but there it is. Mine is 56 inches long, and it has a roller tip, so the tip of it, you know, just kind of rolls around. It helps prevent it from getting stuck in cracks and crevices and stuff. My personal favorite type of tip, because those stationary, like, pencil tips are not great in my opinion. They get stuck in everything, and nothing is worse than accidentally jabbing yourself in the stomach because your cane got stuck in a crack. That shit hurts a lot. But I was gonna originally talk about, you know, how to use it and stuff like that, and I may go into a little bit of that, but I think I kind of want to talk a little bit more about how using the cane affects me personally and the stuff that I've dealt with in regards to it and stuff like that. So, and it's not always the best, and to be honest, like, I'm gonna say this up front, and I don't mean to sound like, you know, a complete downer or whatever when I say this, but I genuinely hate using the cane. I do use it, however, because I am visually impaired, and I want to keep myself safe, and I do acknowledge that it does serve that purpose, and it serves it well. What I hate is the stigma attached to it, and the way I get, you know, stared at walking down the street with it and stuff like that. And this isn't me trying to be like, oh, look at me, poor baby. kind of thing. It's just like, it's just one of those things that I do wish that I didn't have to deal with, but it is a fact of life at this point, so it's just kind of, I'm just kind of complaining, honestly. Um, but I do want to just kind of share that perspective, because I don't know, maybe some people that use a cane don't see it my way, or maybe some people that don't use a cane or don't need a cane or whatever just haven't really thought of it, or something. So yeah, that's pretty much what I want to try to get into today. I'm gonna have to find a way to come up with that, come up with a concise title for that. So yeah, that's gonna be fun. So I guess we'll start with the fact that when I was growing up as a kid, like, you know, 5 or 6 or whatever, I wasn't using a cane back then. Part of me really wanted to when I was a kid. Like, my brother was like the coolest person in the universe, and he had a cane, and I was like, yo, that's so cool, and I wanted to be just like him and stuff like that. I really did, like, legitimately. And for the longest time, I wasn't using a cane until I went to the blind school, and the orientation and mobility staff there noticed that whenever I walked, I would look straight down at my feet, because I was always paranoid over whether or not I'd trip over something. And, you know, they were like, well, you still need to see what's ahead of you, or at least be aware of it, and stuff like that. So, I mean, also, that's just terrible posture, and that's probably going to cause you all kinds of problems later down the line. So, they insisted that I start using a cane, so they basically gave me one. And it was one of those pencil tip ones. So, the worst kind, but I mean, I got a free stick, so, you know. Uh, and it was interesting learning how to use it, because I remember, you know, they'd take me out to the sidewalk right next to the school and stuff like that, and they're like, you know, this is how you use the cane. There were plenty of cracks in the sidewalk, so you'd learn all about the stomach jabbing, and not on purpose, but you'd also learn how to deal with the stomach jabbing and potentially avoid it if you were, you know, careful, which I never was. Still am not. You'd think I'd learned my lesson by now. But, you know, and, excuse me. You know, at the time, I thought it was really, really neat, because then I could actually, you know, look at everything around me and stuff like that, and you know, let's be real, it does have a lot of benefits. You can, you know, survey the ground ahead of you, and, you know, find stuff that you may not have potentially seen. I mean, it's not a perfect system, but it helps a lot. You can use your cane to help trail the edge of, say, the grass on the sidewalk, so you can make sure you're keeping to one side, or whatever. Or even if you're inside, you can use it to find walls and obstacles and things like that, and avoid them and stuff like that, if someone's not dumb enough to try to jump over it. Don't do that, by the way. Don't jump over someone's cane. It's a bad idea for them and for you. You're only going to get yourself hurt, and you're going to basically take away someone's mobility tool. So please don't do that. It's a matter of safety and stuff. But yeah, I mean, you can, so like when I was a kid, I was like, this is so cool, I can find a lot of stuff, and you know, so I used it a lot, and I would practice it a lot. And the problem is at that school, you were kind of in a bubble, because you would unless you were dealing with the staff members, you weren't dealing with any sighted people at all. And obviously the staff members were trained to deal with that and stuff like that, so you weren't going to get any of the weird stares or anything like that. It was when I started getting a little bit older and started learning how to get around, you know, my town at home. And I already knew people, you know, stared at me for being, you know, different and stuff like that, because I had already gotten all that from the Catholic school and stuff like that. So I expected it, but I was not a fan of it, you know? And I just kind of hated, you know, having been, you know, I just hated people staring at the cane and not the person behind it, you know? And they would always, you know, I would always get avoided or whatever, or, you know, get spoken to in a very awkward way, or like I was, you know, mentally handicapped or something like that. And I'm just like, I mean, I'm not. It's just my eyes that are the problem. I don't see why you have to treat me like that, and stuff like that. And granted, this wasn't everyone, right? But it was enough back then to, you know, contribute to me being really self-conscious about it and stuff like that. And, you know, I've since learned to cope with it. I still don't like it. I still don't enjoy it whatsoever, but I use the cane despite that. Just, again, because it does help keep me safe when I'm traveling, and it helps give me information that I otherwise wouldn't have, so that I can stay safe when I walk around. And that eventually became the priority, but for a long time, because of that, I stopped using it pretty much altogether. And even at school, I would stop using it. Even in that bubble, I'm like, nope, I hate it, you know? And I would always get, you know, I would always get bothered by the staff and even other kids sometimes about why I wouldn't use it and things of that nature. And, you know, I would sit there going like, I hate it. I hate being treated like I'm not a person, because that's what it felt like to me. And, you know, it really sucks when you're treated like you're less than just because of something that's, you know, beyond your control. Like, you're just like, I can't help it, but this is the way I am. I was born like this. This is part of me. And it's not my fault that you refuse to accept that. You know, and all I wanted to do was to be able to fit in with that so I wouldn't get treated differently. That's all I wanted to do. And, you know, so there was maybe a good 10-year period where I didn't use my cane pretty much at all. And there was a point throughout high school where I started to realize, I'm like, you know what? It really does help with the safety and stuff like that. So I eventually, begrudgingly, started using it again. And I decided to go back to O&M classes. And I was like, you know, I need a refresher with this and things like that. Because I'm like, you know, I want to get through my life without getting, you know, messed up and things like that. Because I did notice that, you know, when I was walking around, I was slower than everybody else because I was always worried about, you know, falling over something. And a lot of those habits when I was a kid started to come back because, you know, when you're worried about constantly tripping over something, you're going to try to keep an eye out, and you only have one to work with. So you're constantly looking down and not really focusing on what's ahead of you. And that can be a huge problem. So, you know, eventually I decided, you know what, I'm going to give it a shot again. It sucks. I don't like the idea of it, but I'm going to try. So I did. And they basically started me off with a new cane and, you know, went out for O&M lessons and stuff like that. And I did have fun during those lessons. I had a great instructor that taught me a lot about not only just using the cane, but travel in general and stuff like that. And, you know, she was teaching me all kinds of other methods I could use to help find my way around and stuff like that. Like, you know, she was the one that, like, basically introduced me to the fact that GPS wasn't just for cars. So she introduced me to something called the Trekker Breeze, and it was like a little, it's not very little. It was a pretty sizable device that you'd strap over your shoulder and stuff like that, and as you would walk around, it would announce where you were and stuff like that. And so it was a mobile GPS. I keep saying little, but it really wasn't that little. And for what it was really neat, you know? And I found out that you could set custom markers and stuff like that. So I would walk around the school with it, and I would hear that people had made custom things for, you know, say the right down to each entrance. So you could set a custom marker for the entrance to, say, a grocery store, or in our case, the bus hall or the admin building or something like that. Like, you could get that specific with it, which is really, really, really neat, actually. Thankfully, later down the line, there's been apps that have been made that kind of let you do similar things. I know John uses Soundscape a lot, and I haven't really used it myself, but it's a pretty good, according to him, it's a pretty good app that like a GPS app that will help, and you can kind of, if you have what are they called, aftershocks, they're really cool, like bone conducting headphones, so he uses Soundscape with that a lot, so when he travels he can still hear the environment around him and hear the directions from his GPS basically. And even Google Maps has like bi-directional stuff, and most things do. So I was learning to use stuff like that alongside the cane and stuff like that, as well as learning how to interpret surrounding landmarks and mental maps and all kinds of stuff. So O&M classes aren't dedicated to just using the cane. It's dedicated to independent travel in general, whether you're using a cane or something else, or multiple things in combination. And that's when I really learned that, like, hey, this really is beneficial for me despite the stigma and stuff like that. And still hated it though. Still hated it. And I still hate it. And the reason why is, I'll give you an example of one reason why I hate it. Fast forward to college. So 2012, 2013. I would try to get on the bus to go home, and it'd be like a 5-minute bus ride, so not too bad to get home. The trouble is I would get cut off by a lot of people. That would just sort of push me aside and stuff like that. And that's not even me trying, like, being a pushover or anything, because I would push back and I would be like, hey, like, I was already here, I need to get on the bus, like, don't be rude and push past people, like, that's not okay, right? And despite being one of the first people there, I'd always be one of the last people to get on just because of that, and I couldn't get past them, kind of thing. So one day I decided to do a little bit of an experiment, and this experiment lasted for about a week. So for the entire week, I would get on the bus with my cane folded up and off to the side. So I would fold up my cane and I would hang it on like my backpack strap. So it would just kind of be hanging down. It wouldn't be super visible, but it wouldn't be hidden either. So if somebody really looked, they would have seen it. So I would fold it up, put it away in that spot. I used to have a holster, but my old roommate's guide dog ate it, and that upset me a lot. But yeah, so I would do that, and I would get on the bus, and nobody would cut me off. I would be able to show my bus pass and take a seat wherever I wanted, blah blah blah. And this lasted for the whole week. At the end of the week, I got on the bus again, same way, and then what I did was I unfolded my cane. And that's when I got looks, because when you unfold it, it sounds like, I mean, you can hear it, it's just a lot of metal, a lot of metal and clicking sounds. And I just held it there. I just held it because I'm like, well, I need it for when I get off the bus so that I can, step off safely. Because up till that point, I kept it folded up until I got off the bus and stuff like that, which was always kind of a pain. So I unfolded it and I just held it there. I'm just like, yep, I'm just here doing my thing, like minding my own business, right? And then I noticed that a large amount of people were staring at me. So at that point, I was in a place of very, very deep frustration with all kinds of stuff like that, because even within the college itself, like, I'd get this, avoided because of the cane and stuff like that, and people refused to let me join groups because I had the cane and stuff like that. And that was kind of a massive pain in the ass, right? So at that point, I was just kind of done with everything. And so I understand when I say this, it might seem very sudden, but this was building up over months. And so eventually, I looked back at the people and I was like, what? Yeah, I'm blind. I need this to keep me safe when I travel around. You have seen this, but you haven't seen me up until now. And like, that's not exactly how I said it. To be honest, I was far more blunt about it and far more rude about it. But I'm like, hey, yeah, you've seen me, or you've seen this, but you haven't seen me until now. Like, that's not, it just sort of bothers me that, a lot of times people will see that instead of who you are as a person. And that's why, that's the real reason why I hate using the cane, is because this doesn't apply to everyone. Not everyone is like this. I would like to emphasize that. Not everyone does this. But for the people that do, just please stop. Because there is a person behind that stick. There's a person in that wheelchair. There's a person in dealing with all kinds. There's a person behind all that stuff, is all I'm gonna say. And I do realize, wheelchair, like, what does wheelchair have to do with cane? It's like, it doesn't really matter whether it has anything to do with it or not, because in my personal opinion, it's like, I'm kind of going off on a tangent. I wasn't trying to bring up the wheelchair thing, but some people, again, some, not all, but some people tend to look at the device someone's using rather than the actual person themselves. And I think that's really sad. So they'll avoid that stick in the hallway. They'll avoid all kinds of stuff, or try to jump over that stick in the hallway and push past it, because they don't necessarily see the human being behind it. And it's like, we're here and we have those feelings and stuff. And it's like, whenever I put it away, I stopped using it for a while in the college, and I didn't get treated like that anymore until I started using it again. And I'm like, this is absolutely ridiculous, honestly. And for a long time, it really, really brought me down, and I was in a very, very negative space because of it. And I mean, eventually, I persisted, and I still use the cane to this day, despite the fact that I still hate it, because again, I want to be safe when I travel. I don't want to get myself hurt. I want to be able to go to the store and buy the things that I want to buy. I just don't want people just staring at me like I'm an alien. And I do understand that, some people just get stared at regardless, whether they're sighted or not, or whatever. Because some people are just kind of rude like that, and it sucks. And, I'm not going to say I haven't looked over at someone before, because obviously, you're human, it happens. But it's just like, can you not continue to stare? It's a little bit rude, and it's uncomfortable. And it's gotta be awkward for you as well. Like, it has to be. Because half the time when I end up looking over at someone, I don't continue to look, because it just kind of gets awkward for me, because I know they know I'm staring, and it's super weird and uncomfortable. But again, that's just me, and that's how it affects me. And there are plenty of people that, disagree with me and have legitimately fought me on the topic, and, sit there and tell me that, I'm wrong for talking about the things that I'm talking about and feeling the way that I do about it and stuff. And, I'm like, what? I don't think I'm wrong for feeling the way that I do. Depends on what you do with that feeling, is the thing. And I do talk about this, and I'm, probably making it sound like it's a thing that, like, constantly bothers me to this day. And it does. Not as much as it used to, but it does. And, this isn't like a thing to garner sympathy or anything. It's just, hey, this is my perspective on it. And, some people are rude about it, some people aren't, and some people genuinely just don't know and are looking out of curiosity. And I do say, it's like, what? I would rather you ask about it and actually, approach me and talk to me about it and stuff like that, rather than just sort of staring awkwardly. But I do understand, it's like, some people don't necessarily want to go up to a stranger and just start drilling them with questions. And it's like, what? I get that. I understand that, honestly. And some people just don't even know what to say to begin with. And to be honest, I get that as well. So, I mean, as much as it bothers me, I do know, it's like, what? There's not really a right answer kind of thing. It's like, ideally, yes, come up to me and ask questions. Hell, if you have questions, put them in the comments. I'd be so down for answering any questions you guys have. and stuff like that. So, I mean, I don't know, this is just kind of a tangent, I guess. But yeah, I mean, I guess that's all I really have to say about it. And, you know, I do still get stared at a lot of times when I go out and things like that. I have noticed that it has sort of been happening less because I have learned to assert myself a little bit more in that regard. So it's just like, you know what? I have the stick, but I am still here. So they kind of have no choice but to see me. And in some situations, it has proven to be a little bit helpful. There was one day I was at Walmart with my sister. Excuse me, I have to change positions a little bit here. My foot's getting numb. But yeah, I was at Walmart with my sister, and I was like, I want to get a new game. This is when I bought Origami King. And so I went up to the counter and I asked the dude, I was like, hey, so could I get some help getting this game out of the thing? 'Cause it's, you know, locked up and stuff like that. And he's like, oh yeah, there's a guy over there in blue. And he just kind of points off into the distance somewhere. And all I see is blue. Because everything at Walmart is blue. All the banners for stuff, it's all blue. There was stuff on the shelves that were blue. And when things get far enough away from me, it all just blends together. So I'm just like, you know, squinting to try to figure it out. And I'm just like, not even to be rude to the guy kind of thing. Like, it just sort of like, you know, kind of like a thinking out loud kind of, like zoning in. Just like zoning out, trying to figure it out, right? And he just sort of looks at me again and then sees the cane and he's like, oh, I'm sorry, let me do something about that kind of thing. So he went and approached the person and, you know, got what he needed from them, and I followed them to where the games were and stuff like that. And I apologized to him. I'm like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make that awkward, because like it's kind of rough to explain and stuff sometimes. And he understood, and he was really cool about it. And, you know, that was a situation where it did kind of benefit me to have it at that point, because if I didn't have it, it would have been a little bit more difficult to communicate in that sort of way. Because even if I was like, yeah, I'm blind or whatever, like I you know, I'm not gonna say he wouldn't have understood or anything, but it would have been at least a little bit more difficult, and it would have been definitely a lot more awkward, especially with the way I ended up reacting to it, which was not ideal, to be fair. Because I could have been more upfront about it and said, hey, can I get a little bit of assistance, because I'm visually impaired, and whatever, you know? If I led with that, you know, there probably wouldn't have been that awkward moment kind of thing, and I did acknowledge that and stuff like that. But that particular gentleman was super cool about it, and we had a little bit of a conversation about it kind of thing. So, I mean, in the end, things were learnt, and that was the important thing. So, you know, there are benefits to it as much as there are drawbacks. And the thing to keep in mind is there's benefits and drawbacks to just about everything. So, like even the Minnycast themselves. Benefit, I get to share lots of thoughts and perspectives. Drawback, sometimes it's hard to form things the way I want to in a recording setting. So, you know, sometimes I will talk to a friend and open right up the way I would love to on the Minnycast, but when it comes to recording, I still get a little bit nervous and anxious about talking about things that I talk about. So sometimes it doesn't come out the way I want. At least not right away. So, you know, just a bit of working at it and practice and stuff like that. But I think I've rambled on quite enough about this, so definitely let me know your thoughts in the comments below, you guys. Is this something that you've dealt with or have ever run into or anything like that? And if not, what do you think about all this? Because like I do want to just kind of share that perspective rather than you know, rather than be that one going like, you have to listen to me because I'm this. And it's like, I mean, I am this, but I mean, I want to make sure that it's entirely your call rather than, you know, rather than being rude about it, because that's not necessary for anyone. But anyway, you guys, I'm going to let you go for the day. So like I said, leave your thoughts in the comments down below. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Please feel free to check out any other series I have on this channel. And Check out everyone else linked in the description. And if you haven't already, be sure to join the Machino clan on Discord. I would love to hear from you there. Links in the description down below as well. And until next time, Minny out.